Will Ethereum continue to outperform Bitcoin? What is happening with the price and why is the market not pumping? Hey guys, my name is Sheldon Evans, welcome back. Or if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on all of the bell notifications. As you know, YouTube does gatekeep a lot of the cryptocurrency content here on YouTube. So unless you let them know that you want to see this time-sensitive information, you're going to miss out on this content. Also, please be aware of all the scammers in the comments on this video and many other crypto videos on YouTube, as well as videos or ads that play before and after the videos on YouTube. They are always scams. The original creator will never contact you directly or ask for your phone number or email address, and the creator's name in the comments on this video will always have a check mark next to the name to verify the creator. So please be aware of all the impersonators and scammers on these videos. It really breaks my heart to see many people losing money to these scammers and falling victims to them. Please be aware and conscious about this. So on my display right now, I have the Ethereum US dollar chart open, and we're going to take a look at what has been happening with Ethereum over the past couple of weeks and what we can expect to see out of it. So Ethereum did test the previous all-time high, as we know, on the 19th of January and barely broke it or barely touched it, and then we got rejected and got sent back into the depths of hell. We broke out of that ascending channel and fortunately found support at the previous support, which is the upward trend that we've been having over the past couple of months. So fortunately we did bounce from that, and again we tested the previous all-time high, and this time broke above it all the way up to 1472, which I wouldn't consider a breakout. Now we do obviously have a lot of news saying that Ethereum broke its previous all-time high, and this is fantastic news, but I wouldn't consider this a break. I believe this is another rejection. It's another test. I wouldn't even consider it surpassing the previous all-time high, even though technically it did. The sentiment doesn't agree with that, and neither does the overall trend. As you can see, we're downward trending right now. So I do believe that once we do test this again, we can see something similar to what we saw with Bitcoin when we first got rejected from the previous all-time high, before eventually testing it again and then surpassing it and skyrocketing in price over the next couple of weeks to double the price from $20,000 to $40,000. I believe Ethereum could do something similar from the current price of $1,400 all the way up to $2,800, maybe even $3,000 after we successfully break this previous all-time high of around $1,440, $1,450 and surpass it with conviction. We break through it with good volume so that we can continue rising up to the $2,000, $3,000 level. And we have some good news to support this, which I'll talk about in a second, as well as why I believe it will continue to outperform Bitcoin this year or possibly in the long run as well. So we're going to look at the Ethereum Bitcoin chart right now. This is the Ethereum versus Bitcoin value chart. As you know, my main goal is not to increase the value of my portfolio in USD value, but instead in the value against Bitcoin. I want to acquire as much Bitcoin as I possibly can. So many of you know that I performed a big trade back on the 27th of December where I moved most of my Bitcoin holdings into Ethereum. And so far, so good, because I have increased my value or my Bitcoin value of my portfolio by 100%. I have doubled my Bitcoin value so far. So this blue line is where I made that trade on the 27th of December. And if we measure that move against Bitcoin, we can see that it has been around 95%, 93, 94% so far against Bitcoin, meaning that if I had held my Bitcoin at this level instead of selling it into Ethereum, I would still have the same amount of Bitcoin. If I had one Bitcoin back then, I would have one Bitcoin right now. But instead, I sold it to Ethereum. Ethereum appreciated against Bitcoin by 100%, almost 100%. Therefore, now I have 2 Bitcoin. So I have doubled my Bitcoin holdings. And that is the ultimate goal for me, is to acquire as much Bitcoin as I possibly can during this bull run and into the future, because I do believe that it will be eventually the base store of value or the largest store of value, surpassing that of gold. Looking at this chart, we can see that we have broken a previous resistance that was significant with Bitcoin versus Ethereum. So right now, you can see that Ethereum versus Bitcoin is at around 4.1%, meaning that the value of Ethereum is around 4.1% the value of Bitcoin. So we tried to test this level previously in the past on the 28th of December 2018, and then again on the 2nd of September or 31st of August 2020, and we were rejected both times. This time, however, we broke above it and we are still above that previous level of around 4%. If we can hold this and continue breaking up, the next level that we're looking at is the 8.5% level, and then eventually the all-time high, which is 10 to 12% the value of Bitcoin. So what does this mean for Ethereum, and what does it mean for the price of Ethereum? Well, if Bitcoin does eventually reach the levels that we expect it to reach this year of 100,000, 200,000, maybe even $500,000 in this bull run, and Ethereum is at 10% of that value at the peak, 10% of $400,000, Ethereum could then be sitting at $40,000 per Ethereum. Now, how does this work? How is this even possible for Ethereum to be this high or this high in value? Well, we've got some fundamental news that can help this happen, as well as the technicals behind Ethereum as to why this is even possible, which we'll look at in a second as well. I've got some good news supporting all of this. We're first going to take a look at Bitcoin right now and see that Bitcoin has been on a downward trend, which is fantastic news actually, because it means that the market has had some time to breathe, it's had some time to relax, so that the rest of the market can then eventually continue moving upwards, and so can Bitcoin. If we are always in this parabolic move upwards, as you know, Bitcoin does become overbought and eventually leads to a crash. So some sideways movement or some downwards movement is actually encouraged for Bitcoin, and it helps with the overall value of Bitcoin to move more healthily to the upside to eventually reach those $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 levels. So let's get back to Ethereum. Right now, we have got some great news for Ethereum. So as you can see, the number of addresses with a balance of greater than 10,000 Ethereum in the wallets has been increasing. So steadily increased, or sharp increase, since the 10th of November, the number of Ethereum wallets holding over 10k Ethereum has been on an increase. Now, what does this mean? Well, essentially it means that there is huge institutional investment coming into Ethereum, as well as high net worth individuals who are looking at Ethereum as a store of value in addition to Bitcoin. So it's not just Bitcoin that people or institutions are investing in, it is also Ethereum. These are people with over, let's say, $14 million each, or institutions with more than $14 million purchasing Ethereum at scale. So that means the number of whales in the space are increasing, and the number of people trying to acquire a lot of Ethereum is increasing as well. We also have the number of addresses with a non-zero balance on the rise, and it has been on a steady rise since the beginning of middle of 2017. On the 24th of March is when this increase started really happening. And it's been on a steady increase, which means that more and more wallets are being created. Now, this doesn't necessarily translate one-to-one to the number of people in the ecosystem or the number of people holding Ethereum, as I personally have many Ethereum addresses, and I'm sure you do as well. So this does just mean that there are more and more wallets being opened, but this is good news because it does also translate slightly to an increase in people holding Ethereum, even though it's not a one-to-one ratio. Next, we have something quite interesting, which is the balance on exchanges, or the amount of Ethereum that is sitting on centralized exchanges has been on the decrease. So since the 19th or 18th of August 2020, Ethereum has been being withdrawn from exchanges and has had a sharp decrease recently. So this is good news because it means that people who are investing in Ethereum or who are buying Ethereum aren't looking to sell it instantly. They aren't looking for a short trade. They aren't looking to just buy it, wait for it to appreciate in value, and then sell again. Instead, they're looking to hold it because they see the value in it. They see the potential in it, just as they do with Bitcoin. So if you buy Ethereum on an exchange, you withdraw to your hardware wallet with the potential of holding it long term, because you believe that the value of the Ethereum will increase over time to a level that you'll eventually perhaps sell at, or maybe use as a currency or use in the world of DeFi. And this is good news as well, because it means that if people are betting on Ethereum, they are betting on not just the price of the asset, they are betting on its use case, they are betting on DeFi, they are betting on a ton of different altcoins that are built on the Ethereum network, ERC20 tokens. Many projects are built on top of Ethereum, meaning that if you invest in Ethereum, you indirectly invest in the entire ecosystem of tokens that are built on top of Ethereum. And finally, we have the total value of Ethereum staked. So right now it's close to 2.7 million Ethereum has been locked up and staked, which helps with the price of Ethereum because it stabilizes the value, because this Ethereum is locked up, meaning it can't be sold, it can't be withdrawn. So this does stabilize the value, and it also shows that the belief in Ethereum has been increasing, just as the previous metrics that I've shown you This also shows that the belief in Ethereum is on the rise, meaning that people are willing to invest in Ethereum and lock it up and not look at it for a while and wait for it to appreciate in value on its own, or lock it up in DeFi contracts, or lock it up into different staking mechanisms that help appreciate the value of Ethereum and in turn help appreciate the value of their investment that they've made in Ethereum. Now, while these are all technical metrics and technical aspects to why Ethereum can increase in value and why it will happen, let's look at the fundamental basis as to why Ethereum would also increase in value to these levels mentioned. And the first is that the CME futures of Ethereum on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, or the CME, is set to launch on the 8th of February next month. So just as I mentioned before, with many institutional investments or high net worth individuals looking to invest in Ethereum, this supports that as well. One of the main issues that we see with Ethereum or cryptocurrency in general is that it's quite complicated and it's difficult, and there's a large barrier of entry to get into the market to purchase it. If you've been in this for a while, sure, it seems easy, it seems like a piece of cake. But to most people, to the regular person on the street, it is difficult to get into Ethereum. You have to get them to set up a wallet, you have to get them to then withdraw their Ethereum, set up an exchange account, move those transactions around, do transactions, fear not burning their Ethereum or sending it to the wrong address and losing their investment. There are many things that can go wrong to a person who doesn't understand the ecosystem as a whole and how it works. So by launching Ethereum futures, it opens up the market to a huge variety of people that may not ever have been invested in this before, as well as a way for investors to bet on the future price of Ethereum, which is exactly what the futures are, without having to own it. Yes, us crypto purists do believe that holding the underlying asset is the best form of holding crypto, but there are many people who also just want small exposure to Ethereum and want to be exposed to the price appreciation of cryptocurrency because it is so much. They don't want to have to stumble over all of the technical aspects of trying to get invested, but instead just purchase a futures contract on it, and Bob's your uncle, you're exposed to the crypto market. Now, I feel once this happens, or once we start approaching this date on the 8th of February, again, it is provided that it receives regulatory approval from the CFTC. So if this doesn't happen, it could be some bearish news for Ethereum, but I do hope that it does get approved, which would be a very bullish case for Ethereum in the next month or so. And if this does happen, I see us surpassing that previous all-time high of 1448 and actually surpassing it with volume and conviction and moving up to the $3,000 level in February if this happens. We also have the Ether burning and predictable fees. I've spoken about this in a previous video with the EIP 1559 protocol that is being launched or proposed for Ethereum, which would essentially make the burning of fees possible. So it would turn Ethereum from an inflationary asset. Right now, as you mine more and more Ethereum, more and more supply enters the market. Although if you can change that aspect of Ethereum and instead burn some of the fees that happen in transactions, you can actually create Ethereum or transform it into a deflationary asset. So let's say if the inflation of Ethereum is 1%, if you can burn more Ethereum by increasing the number of transactions in the system, therefore you can surpass the inflation and making it a deflationary asset and canceling one another out. And in turn, helping Ethereum reach these astronomical levels of $10, $20, $30,000 per Ethereum, just as Bitcoin has done, because Bitcoin is a deflationary asset. There's always going to be less and less Bitcoin. If we can do the same thing with Ethereum, there's no doubt that it would be able to reach these astronomical levels. And finally, we have the ETH 2.0 rollout, which we don't have a set date for, although it is planned to happen sometime this year. And this has been planned or proposed many times before, and the dates keep getting rolled further and further. And these dates in cryptocurrency and as developers in general, development does often take longer than expected. You run into issues, you run into problems, you run into changes and things that get proposed along the way, therefore delaying the timeline. So I don't expect this to be a very quick thing to happen. It might come later in the year, it might not even happen this year at all, but it is another bullish case for Ethereum. And going back to the previous case saying that we have high net worth individuals as well as institutions investing in Ethereum, it proves that as well. So over the past year, Ethereum has moved 1,200% since the March low in 2020, and Bitcoin has only moved 700%. So Ethereum has been moving faster than Bitcoin, just as I predicted, and I believe will continue to do so. It's generating a lot more attention than Bitcoin is right now. Even though Bitcoin is this number one asset and everybody's talking about it, Ethereum is second. And as we know, most of the market is built on top of Ethereum. Many tokens are ERC20 tokens built on top of the Ethereum network. So by betting on Ethereum, you're betting on everything else as well. And as the transactions in Ethereum increase as well, that would then support, once the EIP 1559 protocol is implemented, once that happens, as the transactions start increasing more and more and more, which I believe will happen. Right now, one of the issues that we're running into is the price of transactions. The fees are so high because the network is being clogged. Once this happens, happens and the fees actually become lower, the number of transactions are going to increase astronomically, therefore also burning more of the Ethereum, deflating it even more, increasing the value. It's very simple to understand as to why Ethereum will increase in value dramatically over the next year. And finally, of course, as we know, DeFi, our one true love, Ethereum remains the leader of the decentralized finance industry. Yes, there are competitors, Polkadot, Cardano, Zilliqa, and so on that are coming into the space. Ethereum is the leader, it has the network effect, and I believe will continue to be the leader, although there's always room for other projects to come in and compete with them or even assist them in this growth. Now I want to talk about Bitcoin and why this is also bullish for Ethereum. So a gaming company, The Nine, agrees to buy 26,000 Bitcoin mining machines. So the publicly traded Chinese company The Nine announced an agreement to buy 26,000 Bitcoin mining ASICs as part of its plan to launch a cryptocurrency mining initiative. So when we have bullish news like this, like publicly traded companies purchasing Bitcoin mining setups, and 26,000 of them at that, that is bullish for Bitcoin, and therefore in turn also bullish for Ethereum. Remember, as the cryptocurrency industry grows as a whole, everything inside of it will also appreciate in value. If Bitcoin increases in value and Ethereum still continues to increase at the same rate that it is right now, it will also appreciate in value, although faster than that of Bitcoin. And to answer the question that I asked in the beginning of the video, why the market is not pumping, even though we have news like this coming out, with Marathon Patent Group purchasing $150 million in Bitcoin. They announced yesterday, by purchasing $150 million worth of Bitcoin, we have accelerated the process of building Marathon into what we believe to be a de facto investment choice for individuals and institutions who are seeking exposure to this new asset class. Now again, this is what I've said before, is that some people don't want to purchase the underlying asset, or it seems too complex and too difficult to do. So instead they purchase something that is related or associated to Bitcoin. So when MicroStrategy purchased Bitcoin, their stock rose 400-500% because people were indirectly investing in Bitcoin by purchasing MicroStrategy stock. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Marathon Group stock rise becomes exponential over the next couple of months, because people are looking to expose themselves to Bitcoin and to the crypto market, but don't want to actually buy crypto. So instead, they purchase the stock of this company, therefore appreciating the value of the stock, therefore drawing more attention to Bitcoin, and it forms this overall snowball effect that keeps growing and growing and growing until we reach the peak of the bubble, which we will be careful for, and I'll make another video on how to predict this and how to be ready for when this happens. And they even said almost explicitly that they are providing a way for individuals to get exposure to Bitcoin. So it's not even like they're hiding this. They're not buying Bitcoin because they believe in it for the sake of it. They're buying Bitcoin because they believe it will attract investors, it will attract people who are looking to get exposure to it in a way that is simple and easy, and that is by buying stock, something that they're used to doing. We also have news that Harvard, Yale, and Brown universities have also been buying Bitcoin, and they've been doing this for over a year. Some of the largest university endowment funds in the US have been quietly buying cryptocurrency for the past year or so through accounts held at Coinbase and other exchanges, CoinDesk has learned. So these universities have been quietly buying Bitcoin under our noses, and these are the institutions that we're talking about. But you may ask, how are they buying this without spiking the price of Bitcoin? Why is the market not absolutely shooting up? Why aren't we at 20k Ethereum? Why aren't we at 100k Bitcoin yet? Well, you see, what happens is when these institutions are buying these large amounts of Bitcoin, they are doing so through OTC desks, meaning they aren't doing it on the open market. They aren't buying it directly through the exchange or market, buying it at a certain price. If you have $100 million and you want to buy Bitcoin, and you go to Coinbase or Binance or Crypto.com and you purchase Bitcoin right now with $100 billion, you will spike the price of Bitcoin so insanely high that you'll actually get less Bitcoin for your money. Because as you increase the value, as you purchase or put $100 million into Bitcoin, that will send the price of Bitcoin up. And then your next buy or portion of your buy will be at a higher price than you initially entered at. And that goes on until you eventually get so much less Bitcoin for your money and cause the market to see this huge spike and people begin selling off. So you actually lose money doing it that way. So instead, what happens, these institutions find people who are looking to sell their Bitcoin or their crypto or their Ethereum at a set rate. And they do this exchange, not on the open market, but instead over the counter, and they do it at direct transaction. So in doing so, the price of Bitcoin remains stagnant. It doesn't move at all from these transactions. But this won't last forever, because as these OTC trades start drying up and less people are inclined to sell these large amounts of Bitcoin to these institutions because they believe in the value themselves, they'll begin holding onto their Bitcoin and maybe won't have enough Bitcoin to sell. So instead, these institutions will then have to perform market buys. And that is what we've been seeing. When we see these dumps in Bitcoin, we see them get bought up very quickly, because as soon as the price starts going down, these institutions start buying up immediately. And that is helping us a lot as well, because by doing this, these institutions are helping stabilize the price, and by performing these huge OTC trades, it makes it more difficult for them to exit the market as well. Now that they've bought $150 million worth of Bitcoin, they can't simply do a market sell either, because if they were to do that, they would then crash the price of Bitcoin and do exactly what I said before, instead of getting the maximum value for their Bitcoin. So they would instead have to do an OTC trade or multiple market sells in order to do that as well. So this helps stabilize the price of Bitcoin, and I believe is what will continue to happen throughout the year for both Bitcoin and Ethereum as we start attracting more and more institutional investment over time. So I'm still incredibly bullish on Bitcoin as well as Ethereum. It's just so obvious that Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin, therefore allowing me to acquire more Bitcoin or more Bitcoin value in the long term. Next up, I want to talk about some interesting altcoin news that is passing around the cryptoverse right now, and that has got to do with Morpheus Network, which helps supply chains integrate with the blockchain and act as a middleware or middleman, connecting the two and making that transition quite easy. So they don't have their own blockchain, but instead provide a software that integrate those two industries with one another. So the news that we have is somewhat of a conspiracy right now, as it hasn't been confirmed. Now there's a rumor going around that Morpheus Network may possibly be partnering with Coca-Cola. And I love myself a good conspiracy, so I had a look into it. And there is some good news supporting this, that this is a very likely possibility. And the reason for this is that we had some news back in 2019 that the Morpheus Network drops a bombshell new hire announcement. Benjamin Smith, the son of the Coca-Cola president and COO, is the new director of business development at Morpheus Network. So there is a connection there, although that isn't really a confirmation, doesn't really have much weight to it. Just because someone is associated with another project doesn't necessarily mean that there will be a partnership, although that does happen quite often in crypto, where one project has an association with another just by personal connection that actually helps form a partnership with the business. But one user managed to find a link on the Morpheus Network website, which is this one, that is a login platform for Coca-Cola. So welcome to TradeCo, the Latin, or I assume Latin America, Coca-Cola import-export platform. Governance model for managing stakeholder interactions and responsibilities, process automation and compliance, end-to-end alignment. So this is just a web page that is on the Morpheus Network domain. So this domain doesn't really have anything. We can't actually do anything here. We don't know what this is, but it just seems to be something connected to Coca-Cola, which could hint that a partnership is coming with Coca-Cola. And this isn't completely out of reach, because Coca-Cola does currently use the baseline protocol with Unibright. So Kona, or Coke One North America, wants to extend the use case from internal network to a larger audience. Utilizing the baseline protocol, the goal is to establish a Coca-Cola bottling harbor, enabling a low barrier network joining process for Coca-Cola bottling suppliers. So this would be a no-brainer integration for Morpheus Network to join this and provide that middleman or that middleware for this integration. Because Coca-Cola already has this connection, this could be the lead to a potential huge collaboration. We also have another page on the Morpheus site, which is the Sobeys Inc. Welcome to our new platform, Sobeys, the second largest food retailer in Canada with over 1,500 stores operating across Canada. This platform helps to streamline communication and document management through a self-serve portal for our valued suppliers across Canada. So these are all things that could be just a conspiracy, but Morpheus Network knows about this. I'm sure the team is active on social media. They haven't discredited any of this yet. They haven't debunked any of this news yet. They haven't confirmed it, but you would assume that if many people were talking about this and this rumor was flowing around and you didn't want it to be true, you would discredit it. But they haven't done that yet. So they could perhaps simply be waiting to announce these huge integrations. And when these companies do integrate with huge partners, we can look at projects like Origin Trail or VeChain, currently at $1.8 billion in market cap, also working in the supply chain industry. This could form the big brother for Morpheus Network. As you guys know, the big brother effect, when a larger project has a smaller project trying to tackle something quite similar to the bigger project, they can easily take a small share of their market cap. If they only got to 10% of VeChain, that would put it at $187 million. Morpheus Network is only currently at $45 million. That is so small for what they aim to do. Seeing this project at $10 wouldn't be out of reach at all. And they've had a nice decline over the past couple of days since the news was announced. So now's probably a good time to get in. So as you guys know, you never want to purchase on a FOMO up, purchase on the way down. So because whether you purchase here or here, you'd be getting in at the same price. So wait for a bit of a dump before you start accumulating whatever token you're in. In other altcoin news, we have some from Axion Network that if you want $2,000 for free and you currently hold HEX, you can go ahead and claim your free HEX, but you've only got 4 days left now. So when this tweet was made, it was 10 days ago. We've got about 4 days left until the end of the month before you can claim your $2,000 and then stake it and earn money on that. As you guys know, I am very bullish on Axion. I do really like this project. I made a video on it earlier this year showing how I expect to make $1 million from Axion network alone. So if you haven't yet, I do recommend you check it out. But if you want that free money, go ahead and claim your free $2,000. Currently valued at $2,000. If the price of the token appreciates over the next year, it's going to be worth $20,000, maybe even $40,000 in the next year. Who knows? They also released some recent bullish news with their Axion mega update. I'd recommend that you go and read this and check it out on how they plan on attracting huge institutional investment to Axion as well. Go and give this a read. It is quite important if you are invested in Axion or looking to get into it. So before anyone asks, or as you guys have in the previous comments on videos, am I paid or sponsored by any of these projects? No, I am not. I speak purely from the view of an investor and someone who has interest in these projects. So if I'm talking about these projects or I'm an advisor to the projects or I've been paid by the projects, I'd make that explicitly clear in the videos. Please be aware of that in the future. So that's all for today. If you guys liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, and as always, I shall see you in the next video. Cheers.